Hi, math friends. I think this is the next page that you are ready for in your notes, but we're actually going to skip over it today. If you want to do it as a bonus, I will make that extra credit. What you're going to do is you're going to look at this equation here, x squared plus 6x plus 5, and you're going to solve it by each of these 5 methods that we have learned about. Okay, so if you want to do that, you can, and turn it in when we come back to school. If not, then let's move along. So we're going to actually jump on to lesson 9. Lesson 9, we're actually going to skip this first part for right now. Now, don't you cross it out because we're going to come back to it. So don't exit out like I did, but we're going to come back to it. But we're going to skip it for right now and move on down to this second part. So as I just mentioned, we have learned about 5 different ways to solve quadratic formulas. So today I want to focus on when these can be used and kind of when's the best time. How do I know when is the best time to use each of the methods? So graphing can be used sometimes. Not all scenarios are you going to be able to solve with graphing. Solving with graphing is going to be best when your roots are integer, when your answers or your x values are integers, specifically when they're whole numbers. You can do, like a fraction, 0.5 or something like that on the graph, but it gets a little hairy. But that's when graphing is going to be best for. In reality, graphing is not really practical. If you ask me to solve a quadratic, I'm never going to whip out some graph paper and solve it for you that way. I'm going to try one of the other options first, okay? Factoring, again, can't always be used, but it is used sometimes. Factoring is good when you have answers or roots that are integers, okay? And remember, integers are positive or negative numbers, not fractions. Typically, factors are going to be good for that, okay? Square roots, again, sometimes. Quadratics can sometimes be used with the square root methods. The square root method is going to be good when there's no b term. For example, in something like x squared minus 49 equals 0, there's no b term there. There's no just plain x value. So, we would move 49 to the other side and then take the square root, and you'd get your answer as plus or minus 7. So that would be an occasion where you would use square root. Completing the square and the quadratic formula are always a possibility for solving these. Now, these are a little bit more in depth, and so usually these are going to be your last 2 options. Completing the square is going to be best for when your x squared has a coefficient of 1, okay? So 1x squared, and you have an even b term, okay? An even b term. So something like, let's say, x squared plus 2x plus 1. Our b term there, that 2 is even, and then you have a coefficient of 1 there. So you could use completing the square, or that would be a good opportunity to use completing the square. Now that one I would probably factor, but anyway, you could use completing the square. And then the quadratic formula can truly be used anytime, okay? It is, for me, kind of my last resort. It's longer, it takes longer than all of these other ones in my opinion, but it can be used anytime for any equation. So what we're going to do today is we are going to move on to homeworks 9, okay? So take that out. So on the front, there are 6 problems on homework 9, and you're going to solve them using different ways, different methods. So this is going to be a great review as we get close to your test, which will probably be next week when we have 2 real lessons left. So this is a great review for that. So practice solving these different ways. And then on the back of your assignment, we are going to kind of skip number 7 for now. Again, don't cross it out because we'll need it later. But step 1 is what we're going to skip. We are going to do step 2. And so step 2 is actually asking us about these equations, these 4 equations, A, B, C, and D, in step 1. So it says, solve each equation using the methods below. You can only use each method once. So I've got the 4 methods aside from graphing. I've got factoring, square roots, completing the square, and the quadratic formula. And for each of these 4 equations, one of them you're going to solve by factoring, one of you're going to solve by completing the square, 1 square roots, and 1 quadratic formula. It doesn't really matter which ones you choose, but some of them are kind of, some of them you probably can't factor. If you get an imaginary answer, you cannot factor that. So that will kind of lead you to which one you want to do. So look for ones that are easy to factor, and that would be the one that you choose to factor. So complete those 4 problems there. So you've got 6 on the front, 4 on the back, 10 total, and that is your assignment today. Let me know if you have any questions, and you all have a great day.